No niin, ehtoota vaan kaikille. Kuuluuko sinne ihan hyvin? Siellä näyttäisi Esa Kaukinen oleva linjoilla ekat iltaa. Pirskatti, tervehdys Tikkis ja muut. Toka, Tertsi. Kiitos kun seurasit, Sannis. Joo, meillä on tänään erikoisvieras ja mielenkiintoinen lähetys tulossa. Vieraana on Thierry Laurent Pellet. En varmaan osannut lausua oikein. Mutta hän on monikielinen ranskalainen yrittäjä ja kirjailija, ja hänet tunnetaan kiistanalaisista ja suorasanaisista kannanotoistaan Ranskan Ukrainalle antamaa tukea vastaan. Hän on syyttänyt Ranskan hallitusta uusnatsien vaikutusvallan vähättelystä, mikä on hänen mukaansa johtanut median hiljaisuuteen. Hän on myös asunut ja työskennellyt Australiassa, Yhdysvalloissa, Ukrainassa ja viimeksi vieraillut Venäjällä, missä hän tapasi muun muassa Sergei Glazievin ja esiintyi Venäjän valtiomediassa. Pelletin mukaan länsi on ajautumassa ideologiseen umpikujaan, kun taas Venäjä vahvistuu ja maailma muuttuu moninapaiseksi. Ja Ranska on jäämässä tämän muutoksen jalkoihin. Häneltä tuli hiljattain myöskin tämmöinen kirja, en nyt muista sen kirjan nimeä, mutta otetaan vieras linjoille, niin hän voi ehkä sitten kertoa enemmän. Okay, welcome to the show, Thierry. I was trying to pronounce your name, but I don't speak any French.
Thank you very much, Tikis, in fact, to welcome me within your show. And I'm really glad I'm going to be able, in fact, to address myself to your people in Finland, because it seems to me that in regard of the context, geopolitical and political context, that is kind of very interesting to have a view of another country. Mm-hmm. And especially somebody that has my background, due to the fact that I've been involved in the story of Ukraine during 10 years. Mm-hmm. So basically, I know pretty much a lot about it. And from what my colleagues are saying about me, they say that I am a big reference in terms of knowledge, understanding. And what is scaring me is that during the 10 years that has been after coup of Maidan in 2014, a coup I have been attending because it has been happening under my balcony. I have been trying, in fact, to prevent and to explain most of the politicians, executive all over the world, because I've been participating to a certain numbers of economic forum in the world. And despite all the warning that I have been putting together, well, look where we are today. And actually, that is the title of my book that was published in the United States. And I thanks my editor in Las Vegas, because even in Europe, nobody wanted, in fact, to publish me. The title of the book is Ukraine, a Warning to the World. And actually, why warning to the world? Because I knew that this would be happening. It was inevitable. So this is how I introduce myself, and I am sure that your audimat gonna have a lot of questions, and I would be more than happy, in fact, to answer them as much as I am going to answer all the questions that you might have in your minds in regard of the situation that is occurring in France today.
Yes, you can find the book on Amazon, I think. Mm-hmm. Is it Amazon? Is it German Amazon or every Amazon? Do you know?
Everywhere in the world you can find a book. Mm-hmm. And actually there is a lot of things that people are discovering when they are reading it. And it is absolutely shocking because I have been putting together the mechanism to explain, in fact, the different events and the connections that there were between them from 2014 to right now. And especially the reason of the COVID. Actually, in fact, the crisis in Ukraine and the COVID are completely linked. And General Vallely, that I am advising for several years right now, have been, how to say that, asking me, in fact, to write a letter that were structuring, in fact, what has been happening and the reason why it was happening. And this letter was sent directly to the White House in the hands of Donald Trump. So there is a huge connection between Ukraine and the story of the COVID. And I am sure that your audimat is going to be very interested in reading what has been developed in the book.
I'm sure, and I will link the book somewhere in my social media. And I think there's one important selling point for the book, which you mentioned to me before we went live. And I think it was interesting that you said Oliver Stone wrote the foreword for the book. Was it?
Yeah, this
am I right?
The director of the production of Oliver Stone, his name is Igor Lopatonok. We are working together for several years.
Okay.
And actually, what is funny is that we were in Moscow for the parade in May all together. You see?
Yes.
And basically, what is funny is that there is a young writer that is located in Donbass. Her name is Faina Savenkova. She's 15 years old. She's a journalist. She's a writer. And she has been writing several books explaining what was her life under the bomb of Kiev during 10 years. And because of this, the secret services of Ukraine has been recording her on a website called Mirot Vorets that is targeting people to be murdered. And a lot of my contacts are right now recorded on this website. And actually, I have been contacting Cyberpol to make sure that this young kid will be protected. And when Igor have been hearing about what I have been putting together in terms of process, in fact, to protect her, he called me and he said, you know, Thierry, that Faina is my godchild. And I said, no, I didn't know. And I said, you know, I was very touched by the approach you have been taking, all the risk that you took for her. And I will never forget what you did for us.
Okay, so maybe we can go to the situation in France, because I was thinking that is the main topic of this live stream. So can you, let me give a short introduction, because in Finland we really don't have much news about France or about, I think, even the outside world. It's a kind of a strange bubble. Of course, we get information, but it's like heavily filtered and censored through the media. So people don't have, I think, real understanding of what's going on in France. So can you tell us what is the biggest thing, latest big thing going on in France at the moment?
Well, the big things have been starting since the mandate of Macron was being imposed to the French people against Fillon, who used to be the prime minister under Sarkozy, a very decent man who would have been leading the country in the right directions in terms of the French people interest. But the oligarchy worldwide, because you need to understand how elections are working right now in Europe and all across countries. You have a layout of people. It's a transversal organization called the World Economic Forum, who are controlling completely the future young leader. They have a sort of entity called the Younger Global Leaders. They are formatting them. They are making sure that they will not lack of anything. They are providing amounts of money that is absolutely insane. And they give them agenda. As soon as the agenda is set up, they are positioning all those guys in the way that they will be controlling completely, in fact, the policies that are set up in Europe.
Yes.
You look at Kaja Kallas, you look at all the prime minister in France, you look at Macron, you look at Trudeau in Canada, and so on. So basically, they have been setting up a form of mafia, And this mafia is imposing through all the media that are completely controlled by most of the oligarchs that are owning most of the media all across the planet. When you want to fight against this, it's extremely difficult. Let's look at what has been happening within the first election that has been popping out of a magic box. Mr. Macron, because nobody knows him, nobody knows where he come from, what is his family about, and actually his personal story is pretty fishy. I cannot go very much into it because Candice Owens is doing much better than I do. Actually, I am in contact with different media that has been in contact with Xavier Poussin, who has been writing the book about Brigitte Macron. Brigitte, if it is not Jean-Michel, who knows, you know? But I have some others I cannot provide to your audience because this can be extremely detrimental to the life of my family. I will do it one of these days, but not now. So basically, this individual has been popping out of the box, out of the blue. Nobody knows where he comes from, who is he, and whatsoever. He has no history, no pictures, nothing. And of course, this guy was formatted by the Rothschild because he comes from this bank. He has been going through the World Economic Forum Young Global Leader. So basically, he's matching everything. And on top of it, everybody has been understanding that this guy is gay. Actually, his bodyguard was one of his lovers. But anyway. So he's matching completely, in fact, the requirements that those guys, they have been deciding. And he was imposed to us through all the media. Actually, during the campaign, if you look at the medias, there was not one day without seeing the face of this guy. And people that understand about the technique of politics understand that as soon as you are broadcasting somebody so heavily, you are going to mark the subconscious of the people. It's called a psyops. It is not an election, it was a psyops. And they have been killing completely the career of Mr. Fillon for a story of suit that were offered by whoever, who knows, and who cares. The reason why it has been happening, this is because Fillon had very good relationship with Medvedev and Vladimir Putin. So you can hear the small music. What has been happening in 2017 was a real disaster for my country because we have somebody that represents the interests of supranational organization and not our nation, neither our citizens. And he is doing everything possible in terms of transgression, in fact, to aggress the people and to put the economy down, to put the social cohesion of our country. And he has been doing this in a very smuggling manner. His technique is very particular. France used to be a bipartisan political landfill. He has been crushing it completely because he was picking up people from one time on the left, one time on the right. And what he was offering is a position of minister. And all when you are flattering, in fact, the ego of people, what they are doing, they are just running after the position. It's called psychological bribing because instead of representing a system of value in which they are believing, those people who has been running after him, they are just looking after a position because they wanted to be under the lights. And on top of it, because the prestige of the position as minister. And this is what he has been doing during the last 7 years. So if we are looking at the...
So he's been, I'm sorry, he's been president for the last 7 years.
Yes. So what we're observing right now, we had a number of prime ministers that nobody saw in the world before. Well, number six prime minister in 5.5 years. This is just crazy. We had 7 ministers of education, 5 ministers of foreign affairs, and we're going to get the 6th one very soon. And when you see the level of the Minister of Foreign Affairs that has been working with Macron, you want to cry. When you're a foreign minister, what does it mean? It means that you have been traveling all over the world. It means that you know several languages. It means that you know a gigantic amount of real leader in the world, and you know how to address yourself to them. Look at the, I don't even remember. I think the previous one of Barrault. This guy was dyslexic. He was not understanding how to speak French. He was not able, in fact, to build a sentence with a subject, verb, complement. When he was speaking, people were just like, my God, what is he talking about? We don't understand. It's confusing everything. It was just a disaster. Every time this guy was going on TV, everybody was laughing and saying, what he is doing here? This is just crazy. But
so he was kind of a French version of Joe Biden, so to speak.
Much worse. Much worse.
Worse. Okay.
Worse. The guy was not even able to speak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's mixing the complements with the adjective, with the names. You were listening to this guy. Oh, my God, what is his language? Is he speaking French? We don't know. And on top of it, because he was the lover of the prime minister, you hear me? The Minister of Foreign Affairs was sleeping with the Prime Minister. So basically, if you look at the political landfill within the French government, 60 to 70% were gay. Is that the representation of a nation? I don't think so. You know, gay community is about what? 3%? And we were getting 70%. So basically, those guys, they were supposed, in fact, to represent the nation. But do they understand what is the nation? Do they understand, in fact, what is the structure of a country that is based on family? I don't think so. So basically, those people whose mindset is a way more indexed on individualism, they were taking decision, in fact, to impose their own agenda. If you look at the ceremony of the Olympics, you remember what has been happening? You had this guy naked, paint in blue, who was in fact showing his attribute. You had another guy showing that he wanted, in fact, to cut the heads of a kid. You had another guy whose balls were coming out of his short. This is crazy. I had a discussion with the advisor of the Prime Minister of Malaysia, which is a Muslim state. He called me at night and he said, Thierry, what is this? What is this? Do you understand? Do you realize those people, they have been insulting 85% of this planet? It was just terrible. It was ugly. I was shocked when I saw that. I'm like, they didn't dare that. How is it possible to dare to do this? That is not the representation of a nation. But this is exactly the representation of who is Macron. Remember, the first June of every year, there is what we call the music celebration to celebrate the spring, okay, the summertime. And there are people playing instruments and bands all over the places, in the street, in every cities. There are concerts, there are bands coming, and so on. You know what has been happening within the Élysée? He has been bringing a DJ coming from a gay club in Paris, and he has been asking for a gang of trans who went showing off whatsoever they were doing during, in fact, their nightclub stories, with high heels, little short, shaking like girls, and so on. It was a shame. When people saw that on TV, they were just like shocked. They say, oh, who is this guy? Is he representing our nation? Who is he, in fact, to do that? There was harsh criticism all over the places. This is not the way that France needs to project itself. And actually, this is one of the major problems that we are encountering right now, economical point of view, because Macron has been sending Séjourné, this famous guy, was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, incapable, in fact, to speak properly, and who is gay, to advocate on the LGBT in Africa. This is ancestral kind of society, patriarchal, and you're imposing a model that they are rejecting completely. And on top of it, most of them, they are Muslim countries. This is nuts. It means that those people, they have absolutely no understanding of what is the world about, what are the others' culture about, what are the civilization that are in front of them about. They don't even know how to communicate with them. And the only thing that is of their agenda is to propagate, in fact, their craziness. You see? And because of this, France have been kicked out completely of the African continent. I have a very good friend. He used to work for the GSC, meaning our secret services, and he was assigned, in fact, to the African continent. I had a discussion with him lately, and he said, you know, we have a problem. French people and the government cannot put their feet in Africa anymore. And look what has been happening as a consequences of the conflict in Ukraine, which is completely linked to the story of the WEF. Because don't forget one thing, the WEF is in part responsible for what has been happening in Ukraine in terms of coup. Who has been financing all of this? Soros. Soros is part of the WEF, his son is gay, everybody knows it, and so on. So basically, those guys, they have been putting a mechanism that now is so explicit and so visible that we cannot close our eyes, you see? But how this is related, in fact, to the story of Macron. Macron has an agenda. His agenda is to make sure that he can justify of the federalization of Europe. But to do so, there are different mechanisms that needs to be implemented. First of all, the control of mentality. You are forbidden, in fact, to criticize if a guy is putting like 2 apple or 2 orange in a bra and is claiming over the roof that he's a woman. This is a total denial of what is the reality, what nature has been putting together as a process. But this is backfiring right now in USA, and we saw it with the story of Donald Trump that has been elected. So basically, in this case, they have been putting together a mechanism to force most of the population to accept what in reality you cannot accept. If 40 years ago, when I was a kid, a guy would have been coming to me a day and put 2 oranges under his t-shirt and say, now I'm a woman, I would have been saying, you know what, dude, why don't you go to see a psychiatrist? Because this is what you need. You don't need to impose me, whoever you are, and the perception that you have of yourself, and to make me accepting it. That is not possible. There are some accidents in the nature. I can understand that. Some men or women, we don't know, are born XXY. You know how many guys in the world? I think
not many.
It's 1 every million. In that case, but those guys don't know about whoever they are on the genetic point of view. They don't know. And some of them, they have the 2 genitals part inside of them, but they don't know. It's an accident of the nature. But if you look at the reality, if you look at the majority of people, and when you do politics, you are putting together politics for the majority, not for the exception. The exception exists, you need to accept it because it's not their fault. This is how they are. But they cannot impose a model that 97% of the population will reject. And you need to make sure that people, the policies that you are putting together, is about to make sure that the population, the well-being of the population is respected and developed, and not imposing a model and enforcing it by the laws. It doesn't make sense. And if they have been doing this, also this mechanism, like the immigration story, which is financed completely by Soros, this is because they wanted to crush the mindset of the population. As soon as you do this, if on top of it you have like a major pandemic, which is called COVID-19, you're plunging the people in the fear. You make whatsoever you want with them. You make them accepting any kind of things. And the any kind of things, this is a conflict in Ukraine that has been erupting for its end at the start of February 2022. So basically, what is the deal here? You are telling me what is linked with Macron. Macron wants to become the president of Europe, but to make sure that people will be accepting that a country called Europe, which is not existing, just erupt out of the blue, they need to control the mindset of the people. And this is what they have been doing. So basically, they are designing Russia as the public enemy number one, when in
it's
fact,
very 1984. If you've read the book, it's almost exactly the same strategy they are using.
Exactly. And in this case, they will say, oh, you see this enemy, we need to be gathering all together because we're going to be fighting against Russia.
Yes.
And because we are stronger than them and we are going to beat them. So basically, let's become European. You know who has been doing this the last time? USSR. You know how it has been ending? Very badly. Because it goes against the mentality of people. In France, we're a country with 357 cheese. And we are not able, in fact, to speak with each other right now, with 67 million people. And they want 460 million people to speak with one voice, with different languages, with different currencies, different culture, different mentality. This is going absolutely nowhere. Nowhere. And you guys, you have the same problem. Because your prime minister is coming from the West, he's gay, and so on. The same schema. You don't have the right to criticize your government. You don't have, in fact, the freedom of speech. This is the reason, actually, why you are living in Italy. This is exactly what is going on here. So basically, these guys, they have been putting this big schema together. But there is a problem here, is that internally right now, Macron has been drying so much the political landfill that he is not able to constitute a government that is going to impose a budget.
And because his approval rating is only, I think, 14%.
14, luckily, because I do believe that this is way below 10%.
Okay, so this guy wants to be the president of EU, and in his own country, his approval rating is 14%.
Yeah.
Not to mention in other countries, I think people, most countries are kind of like, who is this guy? I think most people, when they see Macron, they just kind of think that he's kind of, there's a natural kind of distaste for this guy. At least for me, when I saw him, I'm like, I don't like this guy. I don't know why I don't like him.
Well, I'm going to tell you, in fact, the sentiment I had the first minute I saw this guy. I was with all my family, and my mother say, what do you think about this guy? After 1 minute, I hear his voice, and I say, I don't trust him. I don't like him. Something is wrong with this guy. Something is very, very wrong. And I was perceptive. You know, it's a sort of, when you're alpha male, you immediately recognize that an individual in front of you wouldn't be reliable because it's in its DNA, you know. So basically,
he reminds me also a lot of the president of Finland, actually. He has the same kind of distrustful kind of, I don't know, style.
You're completely right in a sense that in regard of all the actions that he has been taking, the yellow jacket story, the policy that was adopted during the COVID and so on. If I tell you the kind of crazy thing they were imposing to the people through McKinsey advisor, this is just crazy. They were imposing people in cafe to drink their coffee sitting, because they were saying that if people were standing up, they could get the COVID. Do you realize the level of craziness that those guys have been running? They were saying that on the beach, you need to draw a square of 2 by 2, and you need to stay inside of it to protect yourself from the COVID. Outside, where is the how to say, the virus load in open air? There is zero. If you're in a classroom with 40 kids and you have 5 of them that has infected COVID, of course you're going to get it. But if you're open air and you force the people to put a mask and to stay on a beach sitting on a square of 2 by 2, but this is just psychopath can do that. Psychopath.
Do you have the same thing in France, that you like to drink coffee on like standing up, like in Italy? In Italy, we have espresso standing, because for Finnish people in my audience, they think, why would someone drink while standing, coffee? Because the Finnish coffee is like lungo.
Yeah,
it's called lungo. Yes, so you have also the kind of coffee shots, espressos, and you stand.
It's called espresso.
Yes,
so
espresso.
You see all those rules are just the image of how the guy is thinking. It is not about to protect the people, it's about to control them. And this is what he has been doing for the last 7 years. Let's look at the global picture. Today, France has been, the debt of France has been degraded yesterday by Fitch Agency, okay? So basically from AA, we went to simple A. The consequences out of this is major. The guy has been taking measures, and especially to arm the Ukrainian, by assigning them $35 billion. When in our country right now, most of the hospitals, they don't have, in fact, the personnel necessary to handle the patients. We have ambulance arriving on the parking lots of hospital, and patients are waiting 8 to 10 hours, and we are discovering that they are dead inside the ambulance at the end of the day. How do I know this? My brother is a chief of ICU, you see? And he's calling me, and he's telling me everything. And I'm very shocked. And I see this guy spending money here and there to whoever wants to get our money, and especially Europe, because we are the biggest provider of the financing of European Union, $28 billion every year. But the well-being of our citizens is not respected. You see? So basically, all of those mechanisms have been implemented in the way that France will go bankrupt. They do it on purpose. And they do it also on purpose in Germany for one reason. And nobody knows and nobody understands why. What is the real reason? They want to impose the disappearance of the cash. They want to make sure that the euro is going electronic. It's called CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. As soon as the fiduciary money is disappearing, they impose, in fact, the electronic model. What is going to happen? They will control, in fact, your portfolio. As soon as you are going to make a purchase, they will say, what is the object of the purchase? Does your credit, social credit, is high enough to authorize you, for example, to travel? No, you have been eating too much meat. You are not going to buy that. And when you listen to Christine Lagarde, who is the head of the ECB, she is saying it explicitly. Say, we are going to control what the people are going to purchase. She dared to say it in public. I was in Aix-en-Provence last year. She was saying it in front of 700 people during the weeks of the economy in Aix-en-Provence. You see, they don't even hide their agenda. So basically, their deal is about to make sure that the economy in Europe is going to collapse. And that is the reason why they haven't been complaining about the destruction of Nord Stream 2 that was making our economy competitive against the United States. And actually, people that are going to read my book, they will see that I have been sourcing the RAND Institute document explaining all the process of the destruction of Europe by provoking Russia in the period of 17 to 22 of February 2022, because this is a Ukrainian that has been attacking the Donbass in this period, and the president of this region has been asking Vladimir Putin to interfere on the 23rd. And if you want to be convinced about that, you can go to the record of the OSCE. Everything is documented. They cannot even lie about it. And actually, I was in a conference in Cambridge during summertime, the 30th and the 31st of July. I was in front of people of the CIA, and I was in front of some advisors of senators and congressmen of the United States. And they were claiming, oh, Russia has been attacking Ukraine, and so on and so on. And I was saying, oh, you know, OSCE, certainly. Do you mind if we are going to source, in fact, all the documents? I have them in my folder. You want me to show you who has been attacking first? They were green. They were not even knowing what to say, because they were expecting that we Europeans will be aligned on whatsoever they have been deciding. And I say, you know what? We Europeans, we are going to fight for our rights. We Europeans, the European people, not the leaders that has been betraying us. Mm-hmm. Because this is what Macron has been putting together as a mechanism. It's a betrayal, a massive betrayal. He has been selling 220 companies that are, structurally speaking, absolutely mandatory to make sure that our economy is running the right way. They were strategic. He has been making a fortune, and he has been smuggling the fortune in the way that the public will not know about it. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people that are working with us, and they are escalating us all the informations. Mm-hmm. And actually, as soon as you're speaking, you're getting eliminated. I want to quote, in fact, General de Lavarde, who has been dying of a stroke 3 months ago. And then Eric Denessé, one of my colleagues, who used to be in the secret services in DGSE, okay? He has been killed when I had a meeting the week after he was killed. And we were supposed, in fact, to set up a show on TV and to exchange information regarding, in fact, the way that the economy is evolving. Somebody that projects himself in the future, who's taking appointment, who want, in fact, to set up a show, is not committing suicide. We have been discovering that on the gun that has been killing him, there are not his digital print. Unbelievable. How the guy has been killing himself if on the gun you don't have, in fact, the fingerprint. It's impossible. You see? So basically, what we are observing here, and especially in Bercy is the Ministry of Economy. 20 suicides in 6 months. Have you ever heard that? 20
Maybe in AFD they also had the 6, but I think they were murders. Yeah, but that sounds a bit similar.
You know, I've been meeting with a deputy of AFD in Moscow, and she was a dissident, and the police have been deciding, in fact, to confiscate his kids. So what she did is running to Moscow and make sure that her kids would be safe. I've been having dinner with the kids and the family and all his friends, and the kids were fine, you know. And say, I'm not going to go back, in fact, to Germany because I'm scared for my kids. I don't want them to be raised by a gang of psychopaths. You see? So this is the kind of policies that we are encountering right now in France. Mm-hmm. Now, Macron, after the rejection of the budget that was set up by Bayrou, actually, one parenthesis, you're going to love it. Bayrou, Prime Minister of France, 40 years career in politics, has been covering in his own region and in the school of her daughter a massive pedophile scandal that has been leading to about more than 1,000 victims. 1,000 people have been raped by priests, and this guy was knowing, and he has been covering everything. And this is the policy, and this is the politics that we have been inheriting in France. This is a scandal. This is outrageous. This is a shame. And actually, Macron, knowing that this is the second time that his ministers are refused in terms of budget, what he does, in fact, to calm down everybody, he takes somebody of his own team, the Minister of Defense, and he put him as a prime minister. This is a big signal that he's sending to everybody. I want to go at war with Russia. But what he was not anticipating is that 1 week ago, the commander-in-chief of our army, Thierry Laurent, has been resigning. You know why he did so? Because Macron...
I think he refused to send the troops to Ukraine.
Yeah, he sent him the order, in fact, to send the troop to Ukraine. And the entire command has been gathering together and discussing the situation. And they say, this guy is crazy. It's out of question. We're going to do that. Now, let's look at this story of, well, Russia is going to take over Germany, is going to take over Poland, and so on. What is this bullshit? And I'm going to explain you why. How many guys Hitler has been putting together to invade Poland and Europe in 1939? 5.4 million people. In 1944, his army was constituted of 11.2 million people. In Donbass, you have 350,000 soldiers from Russia. And with 350,000 soldiers, he's going to invade Europe? Come on. Don't be ridiculous. This is just taking people for idiots. So
that's a good point. I've not heard that point actually about the numbers. I've heard other points, but that's a good observation.
This is ridiculous. And those guys within the European Union, they are taking people for idiots and naive. And they think we are going to follow up on their lies. This is ridiculous. This is really ridiculous. In Donbass, they have a problem is the exterminations that the Western Ukrainians wanted to put together on the order of all the oligarchs. And we have Rinat Akhmetov, we have Igor Kolomoisky, whose assets were located in Donbass. Those guys have been pumping the money out of the exploitation of all the mineral in Ukraine. They have been filling their pockets, and they were not redistributing, in fact, the resources. That is the reason why Zelensky has been deciding, in fact, to attack, because they wanted, in fact, to get back their resources. They don't care about the Donbass. They don't care about the Ukrainian. They don't care about anybody. And actually, on top of it, their pockets were filled by the European Union, because how can you explain that the fortune of Zelensky came from $650 million before February 2022 to now $3.5 billion? The salary of Zelensky on the payroll of the state of Ukraine is $650 per month. How he has been able to buy a gigantic hotel in Courchevel, about 200 kilometers from my place, that is costing $88 million. You know, it's enough. The amount of money that has been sent to Ukraine is just an outrage to Europeans, to the population that are just like squeezing their wallets right now in the way that those guys, they are getting richer and richer. 30% of the military help has been sold on the black market. 80% of the humanitarian help was sold through the chain of supermarkets of the friends of Zelensky. They have been pumping the money at a level you cannot even imagine. This is an outrage. This is an outrage. And the European Union is telling us that the Ukrainians, they are protecting Europe of an invasion of Russia with 350,000 soldiers. What a joke. What a joke. I was in I go very often to Moscow and I meet with Minister Vladimir Putin. They are laughing when they hear this. They say, those guys are crazy. What do you want us, in fact, to do in Poland? We don't care. What we want to do is to protect our population in Donbass. That's it. But as Zelensky don't want to negotiate, he's losing more and more territory. And this is linked, in fact, to the story of Ukraine, which is a country that never existed in the past. People that are smart enough, that understand geopolitics, that understand history, they know this. I'm going to tell you a small anecdote, which is kind of funny, between quotes. The advisor of a senator I was in front of in July in Cambridge, I heard he was originally from Poland because of his name. And on top of it, Jewish. So I asked him a question. I say, how come, in fact, you have been ending in the United States? Say, my parents, they have been escaping Auschwitz. I say, wow. So basically, you are the descendant of a couple that has been escaping the concentration camp, that went immigrate in the US. And today, you are just backing up people whose hero are Sushkevich and Bandera, responsible for the assassination, the murder, and the genocide of 1.4 million Jews during the Second World War. I say, how do you look at yourself in the mirror on the morning? How do you feel when you go to the grave of your parents? Don't you feel ashamed of yourself? Those two guys I have been quoting, they have their names as hero in every street, in every city in Ukraine, every boulevard, every avenues. And actually, the boulevard Stepan Bandera in Kiev is going straight forward to the monument of the massacre of Baby Yar. Can you believe this? So when I said that to the guy, he was just looking at his shoes. I say, you know what? You have no value. You have no respect for your family. You have no respect for the Shoah. You have no respect for nobody. The only thing you get respect is about whatsoever you are putting in your pocket because you are becoming an advisor of those people. And we know, in fact, what is the industry of war in the United States, because 5.5% of the GDP in US is about, in fact, the military-industrial complex. I say, you know what? When I look at you, I don't respect you. And this is where we are. We are facing a world in which you have people for personal interest and for their selfishness are just forgetting completely about the civilizational aspect of our population. They just want to erase whoever you are. And as soon as you are erasing your history, you don't exist, you have no means for your existence. This is terrible. You know,
and then they offer the solution is drugs and entertainment, computer games, and unfortunately, like we saw this week, people start going crazy and they start killing other people, like we saw in the United States with the Charlie Kirk case.
You know, it's about entertainment. It's about to make you forgetting whoever you are, because at the end of the story was the story of immigration that is completely organized, I would say. They want to mix the population to make sure we are becoming consumer. Because as soon as we are consumer and we don't think anymore, then it's very easy, in fact, to control us. You see, we are going to control whoever wants to consume. You are not, you consume. You don't think, you consume. you think whatsoever we want you to think through Netflix shows and so on. But when you look at yourself in a mirror, if you're a man, if you're a structure, if you have been educated, if you take enough distance out of what is happening right now, you say, wow, I don't want to live in the world they want to construct. And actually, the story of the European Union is going to end the way that the USSR has been collapsing. And, history is repeating itself. And we are going to face, in fact, a major collapse that can be ignited by the major economical crisis that is looming in the United States, because people that are smart enough, they can understand the real reason of the conflict.
Yes.
I'm going to give a few words about it in the way that people can understand. Bretton Woods agreements was stipulating that every raw material in the world, every commodities after the Second World War should be exchanged in dollar. Okay? So basically, when you want to buy oats in the world, the first thing you need to do is what? You need to buy dollar. And then after you can run your transaction. So basically, by this mechanism, United States has been making sure that their debt will be supported. As much as you are buying dollar, it means that there is a need for the dollar. So basically, as a collateral, the federal bank is emitting the dollars necessary to support the transaction. And therefore, their economy is supported. This is like intrinsic mechanism of the economy. After that, what has been happening? In 2000, the euro has been introduced to the market. And euro has been taking 18% of the global currencies. United States wanted absolutely to destroy the Eurozone for one reason, to make sure the euro disappear and they will be imposing again, in fact, the dollar. That was the plan. And the sanction before the 24th of February were already packaged, ready to go in Europe. And because of the mental corruption and the financial corruption of those guys, they have been applying the sanction without saying anything. And actually, I have been calling several European deputies, and I was explaining them in detail what was the plan that has been set up. You think they were listening? Yes, they were listening because I was speaking. But after that, what did they do? Zero. And where we are right now, our economy is completely destroyed. We cannot access, in fact, the raw materials, meaning the commodity, that are necessary to support our economy. Who is going to pay for that? We are going to pay for that. And on top of it, I have been identifying a corruption schema that the European Commission has been putting together. And we have been discovering with my colleague, listen to that, guys, that $726 billion disappeared from the book of the European Union. You hear me? $726 billion disappeared. Not for everybody. So basically, they have been smuggling this money because what they have in mind is to make sure they will continue this conflict to, of course, make sure that Europe will be federalized. But what they were not anticipating is that the Ukrainian has been crushed, and crushed to the point that nobody knows. I am in contact with Colonel McGregor. He received, in fact, a picture of the cemetery, and we are able, in fact, with artificial intelligence, to count the number of graves. As I have been living 10 years in Ukraine, I still receive videos of friends. They are sending me information, and I see the extent of each cemetery in Ukraine. This is monstrous. Monstrous. We know that 1.8 million soldiers in Ukraine has been wiped out. 145,000 guys have been running away. They are deserters. And where they went? in Russia. In 92, the population of Ukraine was 56 million people. Population of Ukraine in 2025 is 28 million. 10 million Ukrainians are living in Russia. So basically, if Russia is the enemy, how come 10 million people of Ukrainians are living there? I was in the office of a minister of Vladimir Putin, Sergei Glazhev. You know where he was born? Zaporozhye. You know where is
Ukraine?
In Ukraine. His assistant, Takchuk, he's Ukrainian from the same region, Zaporozhye. If you look at the constitution of the Russian government, you have a lot of Ukrainian people. Are they fighting with each other? Are they killing each other? No. The story of Ukraine and Russia has been becoming a real social disaster on the sociological point of view, because the number of mixed family existing is enormous. You have people that are divorcing right now. There are people that are beating their wives because they are Ukrainian or because they are Russian. This is ridiculous, you see? And at the end of the story, what is going to happen? Ukraine is going to completely collapse because on the economical point of view, it was a state that has been maintaining under perfusion of European money, our taxpayer money, from 2014 to 2022. If you look at the COVID period, look at the GDP of Ukraine. Every GDP in the world has been collapsing completely. The GDP of Ukraine has been doubling. Wow. How is it possible that during the time everybody is under curfew, everybody is locked down, the GDP has been coming from $100 billion to 200. There was no economy at all. What is this story about? It means that if the European Union was injecting money, it was just artificial GDP. And if you have been living in Ukraine, you know what is going to happen. The money is going to disappear. Look at, go to Kiev, go to Monaco, go to Munich, go to Vienna. You will see the number of luxury cars with a plate immatriculated in Ukraine. Monaco, the Odeon Tower is the most expensive tower in Monaco. The penthouse is rented by 2 Ukrainian families for $500,000 every month for the last 3 years. Who can afford to pay $6 million in rent of an apartment in Monaco for 3 years? Because when you are able, in fact, to put at least 20 million euro on the table to rent an apartment, what is your fortune about? What is your fortune about? Rinat Akhmetov, one of the big oligarchs who was owning all the mining industry in the Donbass, you know where he lives? In Paris. And we have like a president saying, oh, we are going to fight until the last Ukrainian. We are going to support Ukraine. No, you want to support your own agenda. This is what is the problem right now. But when you have an individual that has absolutely no credibility within your own country, imagine his projection outside. In your United States, everybody's laughing. In Africa, everybody's laughing. In South Asia, everybody's looking at Israel. What is this guy about? He has no credibility. And on top of it, he's very dangerous because of his transgressivity in regard of his own perception of what life is about. He's living with a man who has been transformed into a woman. One of the plastic surgeons who was involved in this process got killed. Wow. He was thrown by the 8th floor of his apartment. So you see what is going on here. And, you know, Finnish people, they need to realize what is cooking in the pot. They need to realize that this story is over. If they think that Russia is going to invade them tomorrow, but this is crazy. This is schizophrenia, you know? I'm sorry. If you're a paranoia,
there are many people in Finland living with this schizophrenia, I'm afraid.
Well, we have very good psychiatrists in France. We can you can send them to us. We're going to cure them. When those guys are in the media in France, everybody is like, wow, 80% of the population estimate that Russia is the enemy. When I go to Russia, I say I'm French. Nobody cares. They don't care. They look at you. Hello, how are you doing? Oh, it's very sad that your country is just taking the wrong path. Sorry. You realize we want to visit your country because we like the food, we like to visit, and blah, blah, blah. This is how you are welcome in Russia. They are not even aggressive. You realize a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the TV show in Croatia, and Andrija from what is his name is Slobonia. It was actually, we were very scared that the Russian will be invading us, and I said, come on, think about the story of 350,000 soldiers. Russian people, they want to go to Croatia because this is their the place they are spending their vacation. They want to go to the sea, they want to go to a restaurant. You think they will be invading us, knowing that you are going to spit in their soup? This is ridiculous. On top of it, look at what is going on in your own country. You have no industry. The young people that you are training, they are running out of the country and they go abroad, in fact, to make a living. You are not offering them any opportunity of projection in their future. So what remains on the table? Tourism. If you're cutting off, in fact, your own customer, what is going to remain out of it? You see? And now let's look at the case of Croatia, which is very, very interesting. Croatia in the 90s was not existing. It was called Yugoslavia. Who decided to split this country into sevens? United States and NATO. So they took the border of this country and they dismantled it, and they made about 7 countries because that was of their own interest, in fact, to control this population. Okay? What is happening in Donbass, in Zaporozhye, in Kherson, in Crimea? This is exactly the same thing. I know Crimea very well. I've been spending 4 summers there. And I know a lot of people in Crimea. Go there and try to tell them that they are Ukrainian. Good luck. So basically, what all those so nice people, so oriented diplomacy, democracy and so on, they are telling us that Yugoslavia, to split it into different countries, is right, but to see the Balkanization of Ukraine, because those people, they want to go back to whoever they are, because this is what they were. The Bolshevik has been absorbing most of this region, in fact, to aggregate this into a state called Ukraine, USSR of Ukraine. Wow, I'm impressed. So why the European Union is not focusing on reconstituting the Yugoslavia if they are so keen of respecting, in fact, the borders? They should knock out the door of Croatian people and say, now you don't exist anymore. You are going to aggregate with Montenegro, with Kosovo, with Serbia, with Slovenia, and so on. We are going to reconstitute your state the way it was. You know how it is called? Double standard. It's called hypocrisy. It's called, in Russian, we say, lapsha. Bullshit in English. It's exactly that. It's exactly this. So all those guys, they refuse the fact that some people are deciding for themselves. This is all about the control that the European Union has been deciding for every societies constituting Europe. Europe can be a good thing in terms of common project, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of banking system, based on the moment, they are not touching fiduciary money. They should not put their nose into the vectors and the way that people are living and how they are thinking. This is private, and the privacy need to remain private. They don't have the right to put their nose in our own story. If they want to do that for themselves, go ahead, guys. It's not our deal. You see? So basically, what we're observing here is that the European Union is shifting into a totalitarian states mindset and a kleptocracy. They just want, in fact, to rob the people because they are not able, in fact, to run our economy the right way. They have been making choices. They wanted, in fact, to build their Cerber with 7 heads, with 4 tails and 20 legs. And they think they are going to manage, in fact, this entire story. This is going absolutely nowhere because this is going against the interest of each state and each population. Mm-hmm. I respect anybody in the world. If I go in Arabic countries, I will respect their culture because this is how they are living. And I am not going to tell them, this is how you need to live. Because I decided the way that you have to live. This is called neocolonialism. Imagine tomorrow I go in Finland and say, you are not going to eat smoked fish. I don't like it. Now you are going to eat choucroute. No, you are going to look at me and say, your stuff, eat your frog if you want, eat your oysters if you want, but I'm not going to eat this, and I'm going to continue, in fact, to eat whatsoever I have been eating until now. You see, the mindset is exactly the same thing.
I have a question about the situation in France in relation to what you're talking about, because there's been some in the Finnish alternative media. I should mention that the mainstream media is not talking about this big rioting that's going on in France. So do you think this is something spontaneous and some kind of do you see some kind of a positive development with this, or is this another George Soros type of manipulated thing in order to cause chaos?
Well, when it was the Yellow Jacket at the beginning of the Macron mandate, this has been coming from the fact that they wanted to impose a carbon tax on the carburant. And most of the people that are using diesel, this is because they cannot afford, in fact, to buy another kind of car or another kind of carburant, okay, of fuel. Sorry. So basically, this movement has been spontaneous because people were exhausted. They were not able, in fact, to live. And those people were telling them, you are not to live even more. What happened? It has been exploding. And during 27 months, right before the COVID story, everybody was in the street. At the point, they were not able, in fact, to control the situation. It was going to, I would say, another 1 or 2 weeks, that was finished. The COVID has been saving Macron. Without the COVID, he will be gone. What has been happening this summertime, and I know who is in the back end of the story, block everything, okay? They have been putting together a spontaneous movement based on a group that is kind of small. And they thought that the mayonnaise would be growing and growing. It was made during the summertime. In summer, what's happening? People, they go to the beach, they go barbecue, they eat with their friends, and so on. So basically, the mayonnaise did not grow the way they were expecting. And on top of it, something has been happening. There was a convergence of events. The prime minister has been kicked out. And Mélenchon, who is from LFI, meaning in fact the leftist, who is joining kind of the ideology of migrations, black bloc, and all those guys. So basically, this is the reason why I do believe that there is a part of Soros that is in the back end of this story.
Mm-hmm.
They tried, in fact, to take over the movement and to make sure that this would be aggregating in the way that they will be using it on a political point of view to take over. And to take over,
Yes.
in fact, the prime minister position. Unfortunately for them, Macron has been smart enough, in fact, to declare who would be the prime minister before the event. So he has been cutting off completely the grass under their feet. Yes, there was a small protest, but the initial people that has been organizing the entire story has been dropping everything. They say, wow, this is Mélenchon, bye-bye. Because most of the people, initially, they were pretty much from the right parties. And they were the yellow initial jackets. When they saw Mélenchon was trying to take over, they said, no, we are not going to caution this. We don't want him, in fact, to serve on whatsoever we have been putting together. And look at the flags. You don't see even one French flag. You see the Palestinian flag. In England, it's completely different right now. What is happening in England, this is like spontaneous, and this is growing the way that the initial yellow jacket in France were set up. And this can grow to the point it can be a civil war. Now, everything is going to depend on what the prime minister is going to decide in terms of budget. But I can tell you one thing. If he dare to decide to confiscate the saving of the French people, this is exploding. For now, this protest has been a real flop. It was like fluff, you know. In one day, that was it. The day after, there was nothing. But if they dare to try to trigger a conflict with Russia or to confiscate our assets, he's dead meat. This is where we are right now. There is no more to say because we don't have any government. We don't know who is going to pick up again. But, you know, there is a level of anger that is growing in the country, a level of frustration, a level of angriness coming from all over the places. And I'm just wondering if all the politicians, they understand the mindset that is growing in the country. This entire story is not going to end properly. I am telling you straightforward. There is an accumulation of things that makes the people less and less entitled, in fact, to accept anything else. This is where we are.
So what do you think is the final outcome of this situation in France, in Europe? Do we see a collapse of the EU? Do we see a total collapse of France? Or do you think France, for example, is able to somehow rebuild the nation after the overthrow of the government?
Who financed European Union? Two countries, mainly. Germany, France. If France is not able, in fact, to reimburse its debt, due to the fact that now that the rate, the prime minister has been kicked out, Fitch has been downgrading the debt of France, investors will be not so keen in investing in the country. They were kind of scared, and they will say, we want guarantees. As soon as they are saying this, they are raising the rate. They say, no, we are not going to pay for 4% in return. We are going to want 4.5%, 5%. And if this is the case, it means that we are not going to beneficiate of the services of the debt. France debt represents 127% of the GDP. But this is without integrating the provisional. If you integrate the provisional, meaning in fact whatsoever need to come soon, we talk about 212% of the GDP. It's a broke country. It's broke. It's gone. And we have a number of people right now that are running out of the country with their money, saying, whoa, bye-bye. Ciao. Finito la commedia. See? So basically, the less people will be in the country, the less tax revenue will be set up. If they are increasing the level of tax, the revenue of the tax for the countries will be even lower because people are not going to consume. If they are not going to consume, what is going to happen? The companies are going to lay off, and this is going to increase to the point of collapse. With what is brewing in the United States that I would like to discuss, but it will take forever, and we need to put like a way to share a screen with a lot of graphics in the way that people will be understanding what I say, because presentation I've been putting together is kind of heavy. It will take at least 1 hour and a half, in fact, to go through. And we can set up a new show in the way that we can go through, in fact, all the details, the way that people will understand what is going to happen next. And trust me, it's not very pretty. And if this is going to happen, this is because the BRICS aligned to Russia have been deciding, in fact, to get rid of the dollar. And if they want to do so, this is because United States, until now, have been weaponized their own money. And when you are weaponizing an instrument of this kind that is blackmailing states, if you are facing a big boy, I'm telling you, it's not going to fly. And this is what is happening. Most of the African countries right now, they are aligned on Russia. Most of the South American countries, they are aligned on Russia. Most of the South Asian countries, they do the same. That means that the arrogance of those people within the European Commission and the European pseudo leaders, they don't realize the world has been changing dramatically. The dollar is not supported. Their currency is going to crash. And on top of it, they are trying to put sanctions and tariffs on China, who is the major provider of any kind of goods that are built in the world. Those people, they are out of their mind. They don't understand how the economy is working. They are like ideologists taking a position against a system they don't accept because they have been deciding that it will be happening differently. But they forget one thing. They are our providers of energy and goods. And you want to fight against them? This is completely nuts. Those people within the European Union, they have salaries. They don't need to justify. The money falling in their pocket every month. And because it's falling in the pocket every month, and there are people that are spoon-feeding them because they're cooking for them, they are driving them to offices and so on, they don't have any problem. They don't pay tax because they are exempted. They have apartments that are already paid. They are living like kings. But I don't know how the people are living downstairs, because we have to make our own money to make sure that we can put, in fact, the butter on the table. And those people that are taking position, and they forget who is feeding them, with which money. And this is a major problem, actually. This is a really, really major problem. So basically, at the end of the story, one of these days, we will have to make them understanding that the game is over. Whatsoever decision they need to take, this is for the well-being of their population. It is not for their own well-being without integrating the mechanism of the economy. Those people, they have been doing politics for one reason, because this is the only thing they know how to do. They've never been working. They've never been providing any value on the market. They've never been building a company, hiring somebody, seeing, in fact, the difficulties of penetrating a market, in fact, to sell an asset or whatsoever, or to raise the fund, in fact, to make sure that your business is running. I know what is it. I know how difficult it is. But those people, they want to clean their hands. They want you to be their slaves. You need to obey. You need not to think. Because if you think, you will realize how wrong they are. You see? This is where we are. We are at the cross of our destiny. And we need to make sure that those people will understand that they need to stop. And if we don't do this, we are going to disappear. We will be slaves and we will not be human beings. It's up to us. And I wish that my message is very clear to your audimat. They need to realize all of this. The day you start to think you are not a slave anymore.
Yes. Oh, I should read this message. I was gifted 5 channel membership by Informer. Thank you. Kiitos. All right, I have some additional questions if you want to discuss further. Yeah, but these are kind of, I think you have answered a lot of my questions already, but
it's in anticipation.
Maybe I think this one is quite obvious, but do you actually think that this coalition of the willing and Macron, are they going to have some kind of credible force they're going to send to Ukraine that is going to achieve something?
You talk about the 3 clowns?
I don't remember how many clowns. There are many clowns, but
yeah, there are a lot of them, but those are the kings of the clowns, you know. So let's have a look. When you need, in fact, to go at war, what is the first things that you need? An army. Is there an army? No. Okay. When one of the constituents of this coalition is saying, well, my army don't want to go. You have a small problem here. When the second one is saying, it's out of question, I am going to send any soldier. I'm speaking about Merz. The only one that is almost ready to go is the English, because the UK, because they have a lot of interest in Ukraine. They are owning, in fact, the real estate and so on. You can go through that. I know all the details. Are they going alone without USA, in fact, providing all the backbone of NATO? I don't think so. This is the first point. Second point, you need the finance for what? To put together the production necessary to support your effort. Production, what is it? 0. Nothing. I am an industrial. Somebody is coming to me and say, oh, we might go at war. Can you produce for me? I'm going to look at him and say, are you going to buy? Because if you don't buy, why do you want me to produce? You see what I mean? Okay, they have been smuggling a gigantic amount of money. But at the end of the story, there are 2 components that are not there. And on top of it, the big boy in the pond, United States, is saying, out of question, I will go at war against Russia. This is a nuclear state. And they have something that nobody has been understanding the impact of. It's called Oreshnik. Oreshnik is a missile based on a technology that was developed by an engineer located very, very close to my place. And actually, I'm supposed, in fact, to have dinner with him very soon. His name is Monsieur Petit. And he has been putting the MHD technology that allows a missile to move up and down, right and left, whenever he wants, at a very high speed. Not a lot of people, not a lot of missile has this capacity. It's one. MHD is unique in the world. It has been asking for the work of 1,000 people during 30 years. Because in France, all the peers of Mr. Petit were not believing it would work. I've been attending to one of the conferences of this guy. And so basically he said, okay, you don't want to listen to what I have to say, but the Russians, they have been listening. And they say, wow, it's interesting. Let's try and to work on it. So basically they have been developing their stuff. It's not a ballistic missile that is going from a point with a parabole and then fall on the ground. It is like something that is smuggling in the sky and you cannot intercept it. He is carrying 6 independent re-entry vehicles. 6. Each of those vehicles can carry 6 nuclear weapons. In 9 minutes, this only missile can eradicate completely Europe. You want to go at war with these guys? Ooh. I told one of the minister, Vladimir Putin, say, you know, your stuff that is based on actually a French technology, please keep it in the silo. He's laughing. And say, we are not crazy enough to use these kind of things. Because as soon as you are using nuclear weapons, it's finished. Planet B does not exist. And we are in front of people that are extremely rational. Some guys in Europe, they want you to think that Vladimir Putin is crazy. No, it's not true. The guy is rational, he's smart, he's not completely nuts. You would have a guy like Budanov in Ukraine with such a weapon. Wow, I don't sleep anymore at night. I would be very, very scared. And actually, I need to give some information to your people. At the beginning of the conflict in 2023, I had a conversation with a deputy of European Union that was sitting on the Security Commission of the European Union. And he was in the huis clos meeting with Zelensky. And after that, he called me and he said, you know what, Thierry? This guy is nuts, completely nuts. He has been making the replica of a Buk M3 missile that Ukraine does not produce, with some fissile materials coming from nuclear facilities to make other people believing that Russia has been attacking with a nuclear missile. And he wanted to blow this missile on the nuclear facility of Zaporozhye. When he said this, everybody in the room looked at him, and he was under influence of cocaine because the guy was completely nuts. And everybody in the room looked at him and said, now you stop. You stop. Because if Zaporozhye is exploding, this is 4 times bigger than Chernobyl. There will be no life in Europe at all. Finito. So you stop this kind of bullshit, and we don't want to hear about it anymore. This is what has been happening that is hidden to the public. I've been trying, in fact, to penetrate the media to explain that. Nobody wanted, in fact, me to talk because we were very scared. And Macron would have been accepting this. This is why this guy is very dangerous. So you see, I am giving you information, guys, that you will never find in the media, in the books, or wherever on Facebook or on Twitter. I'm giving you information in regard of the relationship I have with people that are privileged, and they are escalating me, in fact, things that you will not hear from the public. So
I think this is one big problem people, especially in Finland, have, that they don't understand modern warfare. So they think that any conflict with Russia would be basically the same kind of war that we had in World War II, where they come with tanks and troops. No, they would just use a few Oreshniks to destroy the infrastructure, shut down the electric grid, and
one missile, 9 minutes, no life in Europe. Finito. You see, it's not like you will see the tanks coming on in Warsaw or in Berlin. No, this is not going to happen. They don't need this. And actually, I'm going even further. If they blow a nuclear bomb big enough in altitude, there will be no electricity in Europe during 1 week. How do you retaliate out of this? You cannot push the button or telephone, or everything that is working on electricity is finished. And on top of it, all the nuclear facilities, which are cooled by water pump, they will not be able, in fact, to run on electricity. Your nuclear kernel can blow everywhere. You realize the impact of this? There are hundreds of nuclear facilities in Europe. If you are not controlling, in fact, the kernel of those facilities, you can trigger 1,000 times more Chernobyl that has been occurring in 1992. It's finished. There is no life in Europe. They don't even have, in fact, to blow the cities. They just have to make a blow in altitude, no electricity, nobody. It's finished. In 1 year, there is no life in Europe. Yeah, this is, I have been seeing one of the guy writing, we have no clever political party. Because those people, they go politics because it's a shorter way for them to make money. They are not educated. They have nothing in the mind. Never been to school. They don't understand technology. They don't understand economy. They don't understand finance. They don't understand geopolitics. They are all about, in fact, their, how to say, their ideology. You know, we want to be European. Everybody is speaking the language Europe. What is this? I don't know. You see?
Yes, our former prime minister Sanna Marin, she was basically a how you call it, like a cashier in like some sort of store. She was just yeah. I don't know. Maybe she had some university background, but basically that was it. And nowadays she's like a social media influencer, taking selfies on Instagram in whatever fashionable locations. And she's doing a lot of drugs, and she looks completely ruined.
Yeah, with green hair or yellow or pink or whatever, with a ring in the nose like the bulls, you know. We can milk her also if you want. You know, this is a disaster. Look at, for example, the Rassemblement National. You think this is a party of opposition? Have you listened to Bardella inside of the parliament in Europe? You put a wig on his head. It's a von der Leyen with a suit.
Mm-hmm.
You are saying exactly the same thing of this girl. He don't understand economy. This guy don't have any diploma. He's 29 years old. He wanted to become the prime minister of France. Yeah, bro, go back to school, learn a little bit, and perhaps in 20 years we discuss. The guy is very clean on himself, you know. But that's it. It's like a politician for TikTok. Well, this is the kind of politician that we have right now in Europe. TikTokers. The story of attack of the drones in Poland. Macron jumping over the sky. My God, I am going to send 3 Rafale, in fact, to stop the drones. You send 3 Rafale to stop a drone that is like 40 centimeters? Hey, bro.
Did you see the actual pictures of the drones? Because I actually did a live stream where I was following this new stream in real time, and I was seeing the photos, and I started examining the photos really well of the drones, and then I did some research, and they were made from styrofoam. You know what is styrofoam?
Yeah,
is
I know.
Polistirolo in Italian.
If you look at this stuff that is inside of a field without any impact. So what does it mean? It means that they carry it manually, they put it in a place, they take a picture. Oh, we are attacked. My God, this is crazy. We need to trigger the Article 4 of the NATO. Yes. We need to attack Russia. Oh, guys, stop cocaine. Enough. Enough.
Yeah, there was also a house with made of bricks, and they said that this drone made of styrofoam hit the brick wall, and the wall caved down.
Yeah, right.
Yes, right. Yes.
In their games, on Facebook, on X, yes, this is possible. It's like when you take Brigitte Macron and you say this is a woman. This is exactly the same thing.
Yes, or you make like we, as a child, we make these paper airplanes and we
Yeah.
throw them like this, and you throw that to a brick wall and it will fall down.
Father, I have a military background. I'm not a super specialist, but I am a lieutenant.
Mhm.
When I hear all those generals on LCI, BFM, and so on going on the TV show, starting to talk, if I had the opportunity to have them in front of me, I would tell them that fortunately we are not at war with Russia. Because if you are a general and you are bringing our army there, in the next 12 hours, everybody's wiped out. Because you're dumb, you're stupid man. You haven't been understanding that the story of World War I and II is over. There is a changes on the battlefield that is absolutely gigantic. I'm so observing this, the way that the Russian has been evolving their technique, their approach to combat, the tactic, and so on. I'm impressed. And you want to fight against those guys that are completely, trained during 3 years in a real condition. But this is suicidal. It's just suicidal. And on top of it, you are not on the moral point of view right. You're completely wrong. That's it. I can go on and on in regard of what has been happening on Maidan in 2014. And some guys very close to Macron, they were in the organization of the coup. It is what I am describing in my book, and I prove it. Because I put the screenshot, I put the names, I put the email that I have been intercepting, and so on. Very, very close to Macron. Huh? We talk about his director of campaign. We talk about Séjourné, who end up as a minister of foreign affairs, or foreign to the affair, actually. And when you see the implication of those guys at the beginning of the crisis and the way they have been evolving, in fact, to bring us to wherever they want to go, meaning to conflict, you're like, okay, whatsoever Russia would have been doing, it would have been happening. There was absolutely no escape for that. At the beginning, I was thinking, okay, if they were respecting, in fact, the Minsk agreement 1 or 2, this would have been stopping, but that was not the deal. They wanted this crisis to erupt. Whatsoever Russia would have been doing, in fact, to make sure it would not happen, it would have been happening. And actually, I'm going to tell you something. As a citizen of France, who has been living in Ukraine, who has been witnessing everything they did in Ukraine, especially the massacre of Odessa, this is something I cannot accept. It is just a nasty butchery that is absolutely insane. This is like the story that has been happening between the Serbs and the Bosnian. It's just disgusting. Okay, I'm telling you something is that you cannot accept this. It's impossible. And what I have been witnessing has been putting me in a level of anger during 10 years, seeing those guys, the Azov group, which was a neo-Nazi, the Pravi Sector, C-14, White Hammer, Tornado Battalion, and all those groups that were sent to the Donbass to execute the worst of the worst in terms of crimes. Tornado Battalion were jailed on the demand of the CIA, because whatsoever they have been doing in 2016 has been disgusting everybody. They were raping babies. Even Kiev was obliged to put them in jail. They have been prosecuted. You know who has been freeing them to go to the Donbass again? Zelensky. And when I was saying this, I was like, how come Russia is not interfering to stop this? And I was very angry at Vladimir Putin. I was like, this guy don't realize what is going on in this in those oblasts. Why he's not interfering? Because he didn't have the choice. He wanted to solve the problem by diplomacy. And on top of it, because on a financial point of view, if United States was imposing major sanctions like cutting off the SWIFT, they would have been killing Russia in 3 months. So basically, he was zipping it. He was closing the eyes on all the massacre that has been occurring in Mariupol, in Kharkov, in Dnipropetrovsk, in Odessa, in Kiev, everywhere. And this has been lasting during 10 years. I had a lot of friends in Ukraine. I have some, I don't even know where they are. They disappear. They might have been killed. I don't know. Spartak Golovachev, for example, was tortured in the jail of the SBU. His guy was at the head of the freediving team in Ukraine. I've been writing to a minister of Ukraine to free him when he was condemned to execution. They free him and they assign him to residence. He was not able, in fact, to exit his own house. His mother was feeding him. Then the conflict has been exploding in 2022. And what has been happening to Spartak, I don't know. At the beginning of the conflict, during 6 months, I was in touch with him and we were discussing. And suddenly, disappear. I don't know where is he. Might have been killed. I don't know. I have hundreds of stories like this. So basically, when I hear the media in France, everywhere in Europe, lying non-stop, because they are hiding what has been happening in this country, it makes me so angry that you cannot imagine. I was in front of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Barrot, the 3rd of July this year in Aix-en-Provence. I have been humiliating this guy at the point that Asselineau and Philippot has been interviewing me in the way that I explained what has been happening. There was geopolitics profound and so on. And the reaction of the public, they were just booing me. You imagine the way that, in fact, the media has been influencing the way that people are thinking at the point they are not even critical in regard of what is happening right under their nose. I was saying to the minister, are you accepting that most of the streets in every cities in Ukraine are on the name of 2 collaborators of Nazi? It is like tomorrow, the Champs-Élysées, you call it Avenue Maurice Papon or Klaus Barbie. This is exactly the same thing. If you accept what is happening in Ukraine, you can accept it everywhere in the world. But if you say this to anybody in the street in Aix-en-Provence, saying the Cours Mirabeau in Aix-en-Provence, you're going to call it Cours Hitler. This is crazy, you see? So the level of hypocrisy that's been developed in Europe is such that people right now, they need to open the eyes and to look at the thing the way they are. You know, we are not living in a virtual reality. We are living in a real world, and we need to look at the thing the way they are.
I saw an interesting question here. Maybe we have this question, and it's almost 2 hours already. So, who is the next president in France? Do you see any hope for the next president of France?
That is a very big problem. That is a very, very big problem. Marine Le Pen is forbidden to present herself to the election. I am not confident at all with Bardella because I don't believe and trust him. In the opposition, perhaps Retailleau, but he's a fake opposition. Honestly speaking, my deepest wish is that Philippe de Villiers will present himself at the election. If he does so, our country is safe. The country will be safe. He will exit Europe, exit the euro, say goodbye to NATO, end of the story. This is the only way we have, in fact, to save our nation. Not that I am a nationalist, but in regard of whatsoever those guys they have projected, in fact, to control us, I cannot accept it. That is not possible.
Do you think this is probable that he will get elected?
He might have like 30% support. Is it going to be enough, in fact, to move forward to something else? I don't know. And that would be a disaster. So basically, the next 2 years that are coming, we are going to see a lot of instability in the world. This is what we have been seeing with the assassination of Kirk. We are going to see a lot of people that are going to be zipped because they don't want any opposition. And based on the moment, people are killing because they don't want you to speak. This is because they have a lot of things to hide. And their agenda is not so genuine as they are claiming over the roof with all the media that are just propagating their bullshit. You see? Voilà. I wish I had been satisfying the curiosity of everybody. And
yes,
I wish you guys having a good end of the weekends. And I do believe that I need to rest a little bit now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for visiting us, and maybe we will have you as a guest another time too, so we can. You have so much knowledge that I'm sure you have a lot more to say and educate.
Yes. Trust me, yes, I know.
Okay.
Have a good night, guys, and thank you very much for welcoming me on your show.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Joo. Kiitos vaan kaikille, ja en ehtinyt tuossa lausua, että kiitos myöskin Olli Hakalalle 5 lahjajäsenyyttä, ja tosiaan mä teen tästä suomenkieliset tekstitykset, ja varmasti saadaan Thierry sitten uudestaan myöskin joku kerta vieraaksi, niin ei muuta kuin kiitos ja hyvää yötä, moi.